In 1653, Oliver Cromwell, the Lord Protector of Great Britain, sent for Sir Peter Lely. Sir Peter was the portrait painter for Charles I. And Oliver Cromwell, not wanting to be a king, wanted to make a statement. Cromwell asked Lely to paint a portrait of him, but he said, "I want it warts and all, every pimple. If it's not how I really look, I'm not going to pay a farthing for it." Some people debate whether or not that story is true or not. And some people don't like to look at a painting or a photo with pimples. There's something that makes us uncomfortable about reality and the truth. We like a little blemish cover. We don't like the difficult things. Please, use a bit of concealer. Cover that up. Reality isn't what we want to see. We live in a generation who wants filters and Photoshop rather than the way that we really are. Get rid of those wrinkles. That's what the adverts say. When I look in the mirror, I wonder, The Bible is like Cromwell in the sense that it doesn't use concealer. It doesn't cover things up. In fact, the Bible uses lots of perspectives. It covers stories, people, not just from a godly perspective. Yesterday I talked about Job's 3 friends and how I now have compassion for them. Well, today I read Psalm 109. It's an uncomfortable psalm. Because Jesus says, love your enemies. So Jesus says, love your enemies. Jesus says, pray for those who despitefully use you, to bless them. Well, the prayer that is in Psalm 109 is not the prayer I was expecting. It's hardly a blessing. But you see, the Bible shows us lots of perspectives. People long for justice. You know, if somebody's beating up your mother or your sister or your best friend or some innocent child across the street, or they're ripping off a family member, or if the Taliban comes in and takes the rights away of, or even worse, women and children in Afghanistan, you are moved with a sense of justice. And you don't have a lot of love for those enemies. In fact, I dare say that even the most liberal of you, when you think of some evildoer like ISIS chopping off heads, you want justice. You want a little head chopping yourself. You want a little guns and shooting, but when you read the Bible, and God, who has all the right in the world to mete out justice, it's an uncomfortable truth. And there is the great divide. The great divide between our inability to provide or even measure justice properly. We all think we're God. We think we know what's just. We think that we know what's right and what's wrong in the Bible. The fact is, we don't know. We don't know what's just. And that's why we must depend on the justice of God. That's why we must rest that He is the one who ultimately gives justice. And when we look at the story just a little bit further, if we look in the mirror really carefully, if we see that portrait, the portrait that Cromwell had painted of himself, and we see that it's us, then we see that our hearts are the ones that are deserving of the justice of God. That we couldn't stand up toe-to-toe and say that we're more righteous than the Taliban. We couldn't say that we treat our neighbors correctly. We couldn't say we've always been the Good Samaritan. More than likely, we've walked on the other side, like the hypocritical priest. I don't care who you are, but I bet you have failed your own test of justice and goodness in this world. And I bet you, like me, are deserving of the warts and all treatment. I want to encourage you, when you read the uncomfortable stuff in the Bible, look for Jesus, look for God, and trust that He alone is just. He alone's the one who knows what's right and what's wrong. He alone can be trusted. I got some great friends out there who like to point their finger, even family members, and say that God is unjust. God doesn't know what He's doing. That God makes big mistakes when it comes to justice. He wouldn't let this Taliban happen thing, or maybe Biden or Trump or whatever you might think is the big injustice in the world today. Whatever it is, you think you would solve it, and that God is failing because He hasn't solved it. I want to encourage you, you've probably not solved the injustice problems in your own home or in your own heart. And I'm thankful that you're not God. And I'm thankful that I'm not God. And I'm thankful that I can trust God, who gives me in the Bible a warts and all perspective with His justice. Something to think about.